The movie starts at a luxury hotel in London in 1995. Two women, a boy, and a girl enter the hotel. Soaked from the rain, one woman, Eleanor Young, goes to the reception desk to check in at the Lancaster Suites. The receptionist rudely tells her that this is a private hotel and there is no reservation for them. The hotel manager then says the hotel is full and suggests they find a hotel in Chinatown. Eleanor thinks there has been a mistake and asks to use the hotel phone to call her husband, but the manager tells them to leave. Eleanor then uses a payphone outside the hotel to call her husband. Shortly after, they return to the hotel and are greeted by the hotel owner, who announces that Eleanor is the new owner of the hotel. The manager and reception staff are shocked, and Eleanor's son smiles at them. Years later, in 2018, in New York, a woman named Rachel Chu is playing poker with a man and wins. The poker game is actually a lesson because Rachel is a professor of economics at New York University. After teaching, Rachel meets her boyfriend, Nicholas Young, or Nick, at a cafe. Nick invites Rachel to his friends Colin and Araminta's wedding in Singapore and to meet his family. Rachel is unsure at first, but since the semester break is coming up, she agrees to go. Suddenly, a young woman who has been watching them takes a photo of Nick and Rachel and shares it in an Asian chat room with upper-class young people. The chat room members quickly search for Rachel on social media, and news about Nick and Rachel spreads fast. It even reaches Singapore, which has a 12-hour time difference from New York. In Singapore, Eleanor is having a Bible study meeting with friends, but they start whispering about Nick dating someone named Rachel Chu. They even think Nick might marry Rachel. Eleanor simply says that Nick changes girlfriends so often that she doesn't know who he is dating now. Back in New York, Rachel is shopping for clothes with her mother. While choosing outfits, Rachel tells her mother that this is the first time she will meet Nick's family, even though Nick has never talked about them before. Rachel's mother thinks Nick is a good person because he works as a history teacher at New York University, probably to support his poor family. She believes this is why Nick doesn't talk about his family. But they don't know that Nick actually comes from a very rich Asian family. Rachel shares her worry with her mother that Nick's family might not like her because she is Chinese American. Rachel's mother understands but reassures her that everything will be fine. Then, Rachel asks her mother for advice on what to wear to meet Nick's family. Her mother picks a red dress, which means good luck. On the day of their flight to Singapore, Rachel is surprised at the airport when two airline officers approach them. They are taken to the first-class lounge, which confuses Rachel even more. On the plane, Rachel asks Nick how they can afford first-class tickets. Nick explains that his family owns the airline, so they can fly for free. Rachel finally asks Nick about his family. Nick smiles and explains that even though his family is rich, it's their money, not his. Rachel then starts asking Nick more about his family. Nick tells her about some of his cousins. Alistair Chung works in the film industry and is dating a famous actress named Kitty Pong. Eddie Chung works in finance in Hong Kong and loves his family very much. Nick's closest cousin is Astrid, who is very humble. Nick doesn't give many details about his family, making them seem ordinary. When they arrive in Singapore, Colin and Araminta greet them. The four of them start exploring the tasty street food in Singapore. While discussing wedding plans, Rachel and Nick are invited to a pre-wedding party on the Indonesian island of Sumatra. The next day, Rachel visits her college friend, Peek Lin. She is amazed by Peek Lin's luxurious house. Peek Lin invites her to eat with her family. During the meal, Rachel tells them she was invited by her boyfriend to a friend's wedding. Peek Lin's mother is curious and asks Rachel what her boyfriend's last name is since she might know his family. When Rachel says Nick Young, the whole Peek Lin family is shocked. They reveal that the Young family is the richest family in Singapore. Even Colin and Araminta are from wealthy families who own famous luxury hotels in Asia. Rachel is stunned and unsure what to do because she is invited to a family dinner at Nick's grandmother's house that night. Peek Lin offers to lend Rachel a fancy dress and even drives her to Nick's family home. When they arrive at the gate, they are amazed by the grandeur of the Young family's house. Nick greets them in a white suit, looking like a prince. Inside, Nick introduces Rachel to his mother, who is busy checking the food in the kitchen to ensure it is perfect. Rachel hugs her when introducing herself, which surprises Eleanor because it is considered rude in Chinese culture, especially for a first meeting. Eleanor seems uninterested when Rachel talks about her family, mentioning her father has died and her mother did not attend college. Eleanor praises Rachel for being independent but gently criticizes her mother for raising Rachel in a very American way. After the conversation, Rachel feels uncomfortable. Nick's family is large, and Rachel mistakenly thinks an old woman, who is actually Nick's maid, is Amma, Nick's grandmother. This behavior becomes gossip among Nick's family. Nervous and flustered, Rachel accidentally spills red wine on Nick's shirt, and he has to change clothes. Rachel meets Astrid, Michael, and Eddie. She also meets other family members who indirectly belittle her. Astrid sits in a chair and checks her husband's ringing cell phone in the corner of the room. She accidentally reads a message from her husband's mistress. Back in Nick's room, he is changing his shirt. His mother, Eleanor, comes in to help him choose clothes. Eleanor says she is happy to meet Rachel. Nick agrees, thinking his mother must be happy because it is the first time he has brought his girlfriend home. Plus, Rachel is a Chinese woman who works as a professor. But Eleanor corrects Nick. She is unhappy that Rachel is not fully Chinese. Rachel finally meets Amma, who greets her warmly. Amma even invites Rachel to come back and learn how to make Nick's favorite dumplings. After the small party at Nick's family ends, it is time for Colin and Araminta's bachelor and bachelorette parties. Rachel meets Amanda, a lawyer for the young family, at the bachelorette party. At Colin's bachelor party, there is loud music and women dressed sexily, making Nick and Colin uncomfortable. They leave the party and talk together on Swamp Island. There, Nick shows Colin the ring he plans to give Rachel when he proposes. Colin congratulates him. The bachelorette party for Araminta is on Samsara Island, which Araminta's mother has rented for the event. While Rachel is at the spa, Amanda praises her courage to meet Nick's family but warns her to be careful because of her different status from Nick's family. Amanda also says she used to be Nick's girlfriend. Annoyed with Amanda, Rachel leaves. On her way to her room, Rachel bumps into Astrid, and they go to Rachel's room together. They are shocked to find the room covered in insulting scribbles and a bloody fish on the bed. Astrid comforts Rachel and helps her bury the fish on the beach. While helping, Astrid shares that her husband, Michael, is having an affair, which has broken her heart. This brings Rachel and Astrid closer. One day, Rachel is invited back to the young family's house. With Nick and Astrid, Rachel learns how to make dumplings from Eleanor as part of their tradition. During this time, Rachel compliments the ring on Eleanor's finger and asks how she and Nick's father met. Eleanor explains that they met while studying law at Cambridge. However, she dropped out of college to focus on her family. Eleanor then subtly criticizes Rachel for pursuing her dreams, which is more common in Western culture. She points out that in Eastern culture, family is prioritized. Eleanor also explains that the ring was made by Nick's father because Amma was against their marriage. Amma thought Eleanor was not suitable for Nick's father because she came from an ordinary family. It took years for Eleanor to win Amma's approval, and sometimes she still feels unworthy. Eleanor touches Rachel's cheek and tells her that she will never be worthy of Nick either, shocking Rachel. Rachel meets with Peek Lynn and tells her about the problems with Eleanor. Peek Lynn, with the help of her cousin Oliver, decides to help Rachel. They dress Rachel beautifully for Colin and Araminta's wedding. On the wedding day, Rachel arrives in a stunning dress. Although people are amazed by her appearance, Eleanor is still not impressed. Meanwhile, Astrid confronts Michael about his affair. An argument arises, causing Michael to leave and refuse to attend Colin and Araminta's wedding. Astrid arrives at the wedding with Amma. Inside, Rachel tries to stay strong despite constant insults. She cannot sit with the Youngs because Eleanor claims the seats are full. Behind the altar, Nick tells Colin that Rachel is a determined woman. Rachel manages to sit next to Princess Diamond, who usually doesn't allow anyone to sit beside her. Rachel and Princess Diamond are seen chatting warmly. The wedding ceremony begins, and Araminta walks down the aisle. Rachel's eyes fill with tears as she sees Nick mouth, "I love you" from afar. The ceremony is followed by a grand feast. That night, while dancing with Nick, they are called to meet Eleanor and Amma. Eleanor accuses Rachel of being a schemer. She says a detective found out that Rachel is actually the child of her mother's affair after leaving her husband and fleeing to America. Rachel is shocked to learn this from someone else. Hurt, Rachel says she doesn't want to be part of the Young family and leaves the party in tears. Eleanor asks Nick to end his relationship with Rachel to avoid a scandal. Rachel stays at Peek Lynn's house and refuses to see Nick. Nick contacts Rachel's mother to come to Singapore to comfort her. Rachel's mother arrives and tells her the truth about her ex-husband. He was abusive, and she became pregnant by a friend who comforted her. Fearing for her life, she fled to America and raised Rachel there. Rachel's mother persuades her to meet Nick, who apologizes for his family's actions and proposes to her. Nick is willing to give up everything to marry Rachel, but she remains silent. A few days later, Rachel asks Eleanor to meet at a mahjong parlor. Rachel asks why Eleanor thinks she is unworthy of Nick. Eleanor says it is not because Rachel comes from a poor family but because she is not fully Chinese. Rachel then explains that she turned down Nick's proposal because she did not want to ruin his relationship with his family. Rachel advises Eleanor that if Nick ever marries a girl Eleanor approves of, she should remember that Rachel chose to step down for the good of all. After saying this, Rachel reveals her mahjong piece, showing she had actually won the game earlier. However, she purposely let Eleanor win by giving her the winning piece. With grace, Rachel leaves with her mother. Eleanor watches them in silence. Meanwhile, Astrid decides to divorce her husband, Michael. She tells him not to pack because she and the kids are leaving. She explains that the problem in their marriage is not her wealth but Michael's lack of courage and failure to fight for his family. She says it's not her job to make him act like a real man because he isn't one. At the end of the film, Rachel boards an economy-class flight back to New York. On the plane, Nick stops her and proposes with his mother's ring, showing they have Eleanor's blessing. Rachel accepts, and Nick's family hosts a lively engagement party in Singapore, attended by the entire Young family. During the party, Rachel and Eleanor exchange glances, and Eleanor gives a slight smile from a distance. So the moral of the story is, always check who actually owns the hotel before being rude to a guest, they might just end up being your boss.